Okay, I want to revisit a topic we haven't talked about in a while. Let's compare the three main counties that make up the Tampa area. Here we go. I'm Sam, and this is the Living in Tampa channel. We make these videos for you about what it's like to live and move to the whole Tampa area. We're also a team of realtors, and we'd love a chance to earn your business. So if you're looking to buy or sell in the Tampa area, we'd love a chance to earn your business. So give us a call, text, or email anytime. After you reach out, if you're a buyer moving from across the country, we're gonna wanna hop on a Zoom call or a phone call and just process your situation and see how we can best help. If you're a seller here in the area, we wanna set up a listing appointment. We had someone reach out from the channel on Friday, and today's Tuesday, but on Monday, yesterday, we went and had that listing appointment. Have an awesome new listing coming in Starkey Ranch. Super exciting. So whether you're local looking to sell or whether you're just wanting to become a local, you're looking to relocate to the area, we'd love a chance to talk to you. So when I first moved here in 2020, the counties didn't really make sense to me. My in-laws live in Pinellas County, so I kind of viewed everything through their perspective. As I got to know the area a bit more, I realized their perspective is their perspective, and everybody kind of views their area their own way. So I started to really dive into kind of how people think about these different areas, and especially as we've helped hundreds of people move here from across the country, to help them kind of find the right area for them. It's super fun to understand the uniqueness of these areas and see what would best fit you, because that's the real point of this. There's not a best, worst. It's like, no, what do you want? What do you want to be close to? What kind of vibe do you want? And then we can just kind of solve that puzzles. But that's kind of the criteria. Location, which we all know that in real estate, location, blah, blah, blah. It's huge though. It's a huge factor of price. Even our previous house that flooded is still so much more valuable than other areas, just because of how close it is to the water, how close it is to the beach, how walkable it is to certain things. Okay, and then the second piece of this criteria is vibe. You guys know I've avoided this kind of word even. My wife is always telling me, like, just tell them like what it feels like. I'm like, that's too ambiguous, that's too subjective. But I'm gonna try to do that a little bit with some kind of explainers that I've kind of put together for each of these three counties. And the counties we're gonna talk about are Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, and Pasco County. Now you could lump Hernando County into that, Tampa metropolitan statistical area. Some people lump like Bradenton and Sarasota in. There's another two counties down there, Manatee County and Sarasota County. They're not really lumped in. So we're gonna stick with the three counties because they're the main ones we work in, and as you get further out, things just change a little bit. Okay, we're gonna start with Hillsborough County. It's the biggest. It is the Tampa County. There's about 1.5 million people in Hillsborough County. If I'm wrong, my editor's putting the number up here to show you how wrong I am. She's super helpful with that stuff. So about 1.5 million. It is where Tampa is, Tampa proper. Now, not all of Hillsborough County is Tampa, obviously. I was actually just talking to an agent yesterday who's in the LA area. 10 million people in LA County. That's crazy. So these counties are not that big. Hillsborough County, where Tampa is, Tampa is really just this kind of middle strip of that area, the Tampa proper. Now, there's other areas that have Tampa addresses that aren't actually Tampa, like Carrollwood and West Chase and Town and Country. And all these areas often have Tampa addresses, but they're unincorporated parts of the county. They're not managed by the city of Tampa. And Hillsborough County in general just has a faster pace. Yeah, there's some suburban areas kind of on the edges, but you've got the downtown, you've got the airport, you've got malls, indoor and outdoor, you've got cool new developments, you've got the University of Tampa, you've got the University of South Florida, you've got all of the stuff that South Tampa offers, Hyde Park, and cool stuff. So faster pace in general. Now, even if you're on the kind of northwest side. Now, if you're in Keystone, it's kind of a different topic. But let's say you're in Northdale. If you're in Northdale, it's a little bit slower, but you still have busy roads going through there, like Dale Mabry. Like it's still pretty busy. The toll road goes right through that area. It's a little slower there. You can get a little bit more of a neighborhood vibe, but overall, Hillsborough County is just quite a bit busier. Why a lot of people end up living there is actually, it's just closer to their job. So Hillsborough County, whether it's the area around the airport, that West Shore area, or it's even out to the east, where the big USAA campus is, the Citibank campus, or it's downtown, things with infrastructure, port, all those kind of things. Tampa provides quite a bit of jobs. Commuting into Tampa is not super fun. Commuting anywhere is not fun. I work at home. I don't want to go anywhere. I do have 3 little kids, so it makes sense why I don't want to leave that much. It's quite a bit of work to take everybody. But a lot of people end up in Hillsborough County because it's just closer to their jobs. There's cool options that you can get if you're a family moving here from across the country. You can get some like neighborhood feel, but you do pay for it. Prices are quite a bit higher in Hillsborough County than some of the other areas when it comes to a very specific kind of feel that people are often looking for. But all of these counties kind of have everything. So I'm kind of hinting at the neighborhood feel because a lot of our clients are looking for that. But there are like luxury condos downtown. There's cool industrial places in West Tampa. There's cool bungalows in Seminole Heights. Some amazing properties along the Hillsborough River that are just super charming, huge lots, old estate kind of properties. There's a lot of cool stuff. And then out to the east in Hillsborough County, you start to get more and more suburban. Congested suburban is kind of what I would call it. Brandon, Riverview, that area is pretty congested compared to some of the other suburban areas. But the prices are a bit lower because of that constraint. But if you're looking for a suburban area and you need an easy commute to downtown, people end up out in that area. There are some even nicer suburban areas if you go a little further east, like Fishhawk, and there's massive new developments down in Parrish. We have a lot of clients actually buying in Parrish because it's kind of equidistant to Tampa and St. Pete. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. But in Hillsborough County, for the most part, everything is part of Tampa. Now, maybe that's common sense to you, but you'll see with Pinellas County why it might not be. Now, Brandon, Riverview, maybe people aren't thinking of that as Tampa if they live there, but if they live in Carrollwood and West Chase, they might specify they live in those areas, but they're going to tell everyone from a different state that they live in the Tampa area. They live in Tampa. Okay, and the last point about Hillsborough County is politics. Just like most counties in Florida, if there's a big city, it swings liberal. That is no difference in Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County does swing blue. All right, Pinellas County. I lived in Pinellas County for a few years. My in-laws were born and raised there. Pinellas County is the beach county. About 1 million people in this county, the most densely populated county in the whole state. Not the biggest county, but because of the way it's surrounded by water, the population density, it just kind of keeps going up. Now, does it feel super crammed? Yeah, in some areas it does, but there's a lot of areas where it doesn't. The 2 big features of Pinellas County. Number 1, the beaches. Award-winning, beautiful beaches all along that Gulf Coast. Number 2 is St. Petersburg, the second biggest city in kind of the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater metropolitan area. St. Petersburg is about 250,000 people, and it has a really unique vibe. Has a really involved community, has a really cool art scene and food scene. Now, Tampa has some of those things too, but in St. Petersburg, it just feels a bit more consistent. You don't have suburbs surrounding St. Petersburg in the same way you do Tampa. So you don't really get that like suburban influx and like weekend visitor kind of vibe. You get a little bit more of a local vibe. One unique thing about Pinellas County is people do not think they live in Tampa. Now, when you move here from across the country, you kind of lump things together. And that's why this is called Living in Tampa. We talk about the whole area. Maybe I talk about Pinellas County more than other areas. Now I talk about Pasco County quite a bit because that's where I live. But when people live in Pinellas County, they would not say we live in Tampa. They think of Tampa as this kind of like far away town. Now, especially if you're on the edges, you're in Tarpon or you're in St. Petersburg, which are both like really old cities. Tarpon is the same age as Tampa, and St. Petersburg is a little bit younger, like 2 years or something, but still established in the 1800s. But in general, the people that live in these areas do not think that they live in Tampa. That creates a unique little independent town for each of these places. So let's just go down the county, starting in Tarpon Springs, then down to Palm Harbor, and then Dunedin, and then Clearwater, and then Largo, and then Gulfport. Like, you guys get it. And there's a lot more towns than that. And then over to St. Petersburg, and then down to Seminole, over to St. Pete Beach, and Madeira Beach, and Indian Rocks Beach. All these areas kind of feel like their own little town. Some of that is because they're older and they have a little downtown. They have an old downtown. Even like Safety Harbor, which is probably the closest one to Tampa. It's right on the Tampa Bay on that side, so north of St. Petersburg. Still has its own charm and its own vibe, its own downtown, its own, farmers markets and, Third Friday things. I don't know what Friday they do it on. But in general, in Pinellas County, You have some suburban areas on the north half of the county, but for the most part, each of these little towns kind of feels like their own thing. Yeah, if you live in Palm Harbor, you're going into Clearwater for all kinds of stuff. Or if you live in, Gulfport, you're going into St. Petersburg, you're going into Clearwater, you're driving over to Tampa. Like, it's all really connected, but there's a little bit more of like a downtown kind of vibe, a little bit more of a small town kind of vibe in these pockets throughout Pinellas County that you don't get in Hillsborough County. Okay, and then the politics for Pinellas County. Pinellas County is like a swing county. They call it purple county, so it votes, red and blue. And it really does. There's obviously pockets that are a bit more liberal and pockets that are a bit more conservative. But in general, the county is pretty split. Okay, Pasco County. Pasco County, you can see how big it is. It's a pretty big county. Population density is nowhere near Pinellas County. It's pretty spread out up here. About 500,000 people in Pasco County. A lot of you may have heard about this county, maybe from these videos or other people's videos talking about these master plan communities like Epperson and Murata and Winding Ridge and now Two Rivers. All those are in the Wesley Chapel area. Then you have Angeline in Land O'Lakes. You have Long Lake Ranch right there in Lutz. You have Cheval a little further in Lutz, which is actually in Hillsborough County. A lot of these neighborhoods across the Highway 54 corridor, and then as you get even further west into Odessa, you have Astoria and Starkey Ranch and Longleaf, and then you have the little town of Trinity. There's a lot of stuff going on in Pasco County. It's still pretty spread out though. Even if you see some of this footage of Starkey Ranch, like one of the nicer neighborhoods, 1,100 homes. So not super big, but not small at all. You can see just how spaced out it is. They've designed these neighborhoods to feel more like that. But one of my favorite things about Pasco County is actually access. So you could live in the middle of Pasco County and have pretty decent access to Tampa and pretty decent access to the beaches. Those are typically the main things people want. Now maybe you're a foodie and you want easier access to St. Petersburg. Maybe you're, a Disney fan and you want to be further east so you can get up to on I-4 easily and get to Disney. No problem. But Pasco County has a nice balance of access for most people. Also, although in Pasco County there are massive ranges of homes, prices do just tend to be a bit lower than the same home in Pinellas County or Hillsborough County. Like for example, my home built in the late 80s, 4-bedroom house with a pool on an acre. If I were to sell this house right now, I think I could sell it for about $650. I'm on the east side of Newport Richey. If I were to sell this house in Palm Harbor, I think I could sell it for $950. Just because the land is so much more scarce and it fits a very typical prototype home that people are looking for. Now, not everybody wants an acre. We have 25 chickens right now. Not everybody's gonna want that. But if you do, this county is where you can get it. Of course, going further north, you can get it for even cheaper or get more space. Check out a recent video I made. I never know if I'm pointing at the right corner. Wherever it is, the link for the living on an acre plus, just kind of showing the areas where you could get something like this. Okay, but back to Pasco County. There is quite the rival between Pasco County and everybody else. They think, I said they, my in-laws, my father-in-law thinks that Pasco County is just full of rednecks, full of crackers, which are kind of like Florida rednecks, people that crack the whip on cattle. Some of that's probably true. Maybe I'm just a bit more of a redneck than I readily admit. I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. It still seems pretty nice here to me. Like, we don't even have properties like this where I grew up. Like, that just doesn't exist. You gotta go to the big city in Oklahoma to find properties like this. But in Pasco County, you can get the newer suburbs, or you can get something a little bit older and more spaced out like this, all within the same county. Another thing that people like about Pasco County is that it is, not just cheaper houses, but cheaper property taxes, cheaper utilities. A lot of those things are just a little cheaper here. And then finally, politics for Pasco County. Pasco County tends to be the most conservative of these three counties. Some of that probably just goes with the smaller rural areas, the kind of redneck vibe. Redneck's probably a harsh word for that. You guys know what I mean. I like it. It's beautiful. It's wide open in so many areas. There's a lot to offer. So this is just the three counties. I understand this is high level. It can be kind of vague to think about it like this, but a lot of the time, this is how you need to start thinking about where is best for you in the Tampa area. If you're considering moving here, or if you have a house here you need to sell, we'd love a chance to earn your business. Give us a call, text, or email anytime. Thanks for coming by.